and welcome again to the Think Bamboo podcast, the show where we unpack the professional and personal growth journeys from some of the most interesting minds in marketing and business. And today I am very excited to introduce none other than Paddy Moogan. Paddy, for those that are unfamiliar with you, would you like to give yourself a little introduction?
Yep, sure. Thanks, Jamie. So, yeah, I'm Paddy. I go way back in the SEO industry. I started in SEO actually when I was at university. I kind of stumbled across affiliate marketing and spam and that kind of stuff and learned what you think what SEO was. Eventually, I ended up getting a job as an SEO and moving to London, working at an agency called Distilled for about 5 years before leaving to start my own agency, which I ran for around 10 years or so. And I left that agency about 2 years ago. And now I work as an advisor to agencies as a bit of a non-exec director, board member, part-time therapist type person for agency founders to really kind of help them navigate agency life. But at heart, I'm an SEO. I love kind of tweaking things, optimizing things, but now I try and work at that kind of board, kind of business level, but I still get dragged back into SEO sometimes because I enjoy it.
Well, I was just saying to Paddy beforehand, and there will be people listening to this that remember this, is going back to the Big Mouth days, but this was also at the time where we were changing into Lost Boys and then Digitas LBI, and then eventually Digitas was a Paddy. You wrote essentially the link building guide that I'm pretty sure thousands quoted, referenced back, sent across to all their colleagues. If anybody questioned anything, they would send this guide over and say, look at this page here, I'm following this. I was one of those people that did that there, because at the time we were changing how we were approaching content marketing and link building and at that there, and we were wanting to do something that added a bit more, I want to say, value rather than just churning out crap, basically, which was all that. And as much as I said thank you to you off camera, I want to say thank you again, because it's not a small thing to say that it changed my career. Having that and having you, that as the guide to say, hey, look, there is legs behind what we're saying here. If Paddy says it, then it must be true. So we're good to go there. So thank you very much for that. But that was back for me. I want to go back a little bit further for you. Before you started an SEO, is that you were studying to do law? Am I right in saying that there?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, a bit of a random tangent away from SEO, but yeah, I started doing law actually at college and just really enjoyed it. And then I ended up kind of starting to go to university to do it there as well. And about halfway through, maybe, I just started to realize it wasn't really for me. I was enjoying elements of it, but the idea of kind of doing it as a job started to appeal less and less the more that I did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think at the time it was one of those careers that, it still is, was very well paid, but you had to go through a lot of different steps to get to that level. So
Yeah.
I had to go to law school and get more qualifications. I just didn't really fancy it. So I accidentally ended up kind of building websites in between lectures. I was literally in the university library building websites and kind of learning about affiliate marketing and kind of Google AdSense at the time and like affiliate networks, and just kind of fell into SEO that way. But yeah, it started with a law degree that I got bored of, and so it's worked out okay. I still get asked if I can practice law, and I'm like, you shouldn't let me around near anything like that these days. But yeah, that's kind of how I accidentally ended up in SEO, which I think most people end up in SEO by accident these days.
I completely. So I also ended up in SEO by accident. It was not wasn't at the forefront of my mind. But what did that teach you at that time? Because like going from law, again, it's a very well paid, or still back then and now, a very well paid industry. I wouldn't necessarily call it the most secure, because it can be highly competitive, all the rest of that there. But what did it teach you? I mean, and this is one of the things that with SEO as well, I can see the correlation with. What did it teach you about like following your gut and your tolerance for risk, moving from law into into SEO at the time, which was a lot more of a wild well, we're coming back into the Wild West days, but also 2004 was definitely a lot more unregulated.
Yeah, definitely. I think that looking back on it, I guess when I was that young, so I was like 19, 20 years old at that point, it didn't actually feel that risky. Now, if someone said to me they were going to do it, I'd be like, oh, be careful, that kind of stuff. But it didn't feel too risky at the time. But I feel that I still had a lot of confidence in uh, the fact that I could do it, and also I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed the tweaking, the optimizing, the figuring out the loopholes, figuring out what worked and didn't work, and especially at that in that period of time, it felt like there was a lot of people who were helping each other figure out this thing called Google, and kind of it was almost like us against Google, like the whole industry against Google, and that I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the process of discovering things that worked and didn't work and be like, oh, I've made this change and suddenly my rankings have done this. And I really enjoyed that process. So there was a lot of confidence there in stepping away from law because I was like, well, I enjoy it. I am okay at it. Like I didn't make thousands, but I made enough money to pay for drinks every month at at a student bar and kind of, pay for some nice things here and there. So that combination of I was enjoying it, so it gave me some confidence to step out of or to kind of sack off the law a little bit. I still completed the degree, but in the back of my head, I was never going to carry it on. Uh, but yeah, kind of that confidence of enjoying it, but also I felt like I was actually pretty good at it. Meant it didn't really feel like too much of a risk at that point, and
Okay.
thankfully, I have, especially at that time, I had very supportive parents who were like, "Okay, fair enough. You do what you enjoy, and if law is not for you," my dad was a bit more skeptical, but my mum was very much like, "You know what? We're not going to force you into a route that you don't enjoy because that's not going to
Yeah.
work."
You know, I can relate to a little bit of that, because my career beforehand was, I was an actor, which I somehow have been able to shoehorn in to 30 of these conversations, which is terrible. But the idea, at the time was how I got into SEO with that there when you say about falling into it accidentally was, my brother and sister were at Big Mouth Media at the time as well, and they were looking for someone who could, write articles for certain clients at that time there, and also someone to come into the office 1 or 2 days a week if to help with basically pulling out a lot of the bad links out of link profiles, that type of thing there. And whilst acting, when I was on tour, I could write articles and keep going there. So I got like found Big Mouth that way and kept in touch with them for 4 years and still didn't really know what SEO was, by the way, at this whole point. Just all I knew was like, hey, can you write this, include this link, set in here, use this anchor text, cool. Can you code it a little bit? Or like, sure, no problem. And that's where then opportunity came up, said, "Hey, look, I'm not really loving the whole acting life anymore," and having to come into the office if I didn't have an audition or if I wasn't on tour to come into the work there, met some of the guys there, that actually still work with us today, which is lovely. That's 20 odd years now. Um, yeah, you kind of just fall into it accidentally. It was nothing like you don't. No one's setting out to go, hey, you know what I want to do? Or actually, they maybe do now, but definitely back then, not with me at all. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't even know it was called SEO when I first started doing it, and I had no idea that there was actually jobs, actual real salaried
Uh-huh.
jobs you could get in this industry at the time. I was just like just playing with the internet and just figuring these things out, and eventually realised there was this whole industry of people doing it. So yeah, I very much fell into it through that route of just learning online, tweaking, figuring it out, and then eventually building a career around it.
It's like so yeah, about built I know we're going off tangent here. I do want to get to the other questions here, but I'm just really like learning back then, uh, there was obviously some resources. There was enough there, but I found the majority of my education early on was through others.
Yeah.
I was and I looking back, I'm so grateful for this my immediate table surrounding me and just the knowledge that I had and my natural instinct around when I don't know something that well is basically just shut up and listen and let other people talk to me. And there's a little bit of fear of going, don't say the wrong thing. But I'm going like, if I'm not confident enough to speak on this, then something's going to go wrong. I don't want to dent my pride. I don't want to look stupid in front of everyone. But there was 4 people around me, like, that I can there was a lot of people around me, but the initial person, there was a woman, called Sarah behind me who was in my eyes as this genius who just seemed to get everything right there. I had another woman called Jenny to my right who is, like, the guru in my eyes of how to handle difficult conversations with clients. She just had this air around her that just people liked her. She was able to see the right thing. Even when I'm sitting on a call and going, "Oh, man, this is going terrible," I come out going, how did you manage to turn that around and anything there? And she's got that natural ability. And learning that, there wasn't any of the resources back then until you came out with that guide, which I was very thankful for. Until then, I was, yeah, it was just learning about things and having to go through like your Google Analytics exams and your Google AdWords exams every 6 months. There wasn't the resources for that. We quite literally had people around us saying, okay, this is what you've got to learn. We'll keep asking you the questions over and over until you know the answer. And then when you get the multiple choice, you'll just hit the right one. And there's no qualms about that. Love that. Back in the day. So going back, I want to we'll kind of go the early days, and I want to bring on to modern times. Uh, One of the things, so I want to make sure I've got this right, that you were growing up, you were running like little sweet shops and things like that, trying to make a little bit of money at school. And I find with people like that, these entrepreneurs, and also SEO, where there's not everyone around you telling like, hey, look, this is the route to go down, this is the answer. You've kind of got to figure it out for yourself, and there's a little bit of curiosity that's got to come with that, and sort of an appetite to say, okay, I might fail here, but I'm going to learn from that. Were you always like that? And when you got into the law part of it, I can imagine that's quite corporate, and you might have had to unlearn some of those, or reevaluate those behaviors. Um, have a thought. Can you chat to me about that? About having to like go into that corporate world, seeing SEO. Is there any behavior that I had to unlearn from going from law into SEO?
There's definitely some elements to it because one of the things I actually enjoyed about my studies of law was definitely the research side of it, because a lot of it is based in the fact that a lot of the case law it's been done. The precedent's been set, so you have to go and learn it, use it to move forward. I actually really enjoyed that process, so I think that I definitely kind of carried that through to like back into the SEO world in terms of enjoying the research, enjoying the learning, and kind of seeing what's happened in the past and using that for the future. That bit I really enjoyed, but there were a few bits where it was with SEO, it wasn't quite as structured, right? Like if you imagine kind of law books and case law, like it still exists now, but there was a massive database called Westlaw where you'd literally go and search for a case and it'd bring it up.
Mhm, mhm.
It was all very structured and very kind of fixed and very kind of the precedent was set and that was it. You use that to move forward. Whereas with SEO, obviously there wasn't really much in the way of precedent that lasted very long. Like it was a much quicker
Mhm.
moving industry where in the law, you're referencing cases from 100 years ago or 50 years ago, 60 years ago that you're still using today. Whereas with SEO, like months could go by and something could change, or even weeks or days, and then an
Yeah.
algorithm update comes out. So you're having to move a lot more quickly. So that was definitely, I wouldn't say it was weird, but it was definitely different to work in that way because I'd had 3 years of law where, yeah, the 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 law itself was a mass like 100-year period that you could go back over, whereas with SEO, obviously,
Yeah.
it changes quite quickly. So that was definitely a bit of a change and not a shock because I've been doing it already, but definitely it was different kind of behavior that I had to adapt to and work by.
That's really I love that the case things about the duration that you've got to work with, because even right now, and I don't want to date this podcast so suddenly, the AI right now and the changes that are happening so rapidly, like, so whenever I'm interviewing people, I'm finding if someone's saying, "Hey, like I've got 15, 16 years experience," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad for that because there you've had like problem solving, brilliant." But if you're telling me that you're still looking back and, oh yeah, that tactic I was using 10, 12 years ago, this is the one I'm using just now, and going, that's not really what I mean by experience. You've got to see what's happening right now and how you're adapting to it there and using that education.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. It's a funny industry because yes, things do change very quickly, But then also, even more so with AI, I'd argue, the foundations are still very, very similar.
Mhm.
I quite love now that we're kind of going back to basics where a lot of the messaging now in terms of what we should be doing moving forward is having a good brand, having a good product, kind of being in the right places, knowing you're like, well, yeah, we're marketers. That's what it's always been. But we are kind of also having you mentioned this earlier about going back to the wild west of spam and tactics because their AI platforms just haven't figured out how to catch that yet. And Google have got
Yeah, yeah.
20 experience doing that. So it's a bit of a weird place. So I still think the fundamentals will always be the same, but the tactics above it, the ways in which you do stuff, yes, those always change, and you have to keep up with those and know what's working and what doesn't.
Find that the conversations that we're having now, I absolutely agree, by the way, the foundations, and I'd say more or less have stayed the same and
Yeah,
stay on the good right side. But those who engage with us in those conversations, um, for example, with me, and I know with our clients for the last 4 years anyway, it started off with, okay, James, your SEO, the organic guy, cool. That's your lane. Please stay in it. And now suddenly it's, well, that, like, no, there's a much broader scope here that we've got to be talking about, yeah, your branding, keeping it consistent. Where are you visible? Where's your audience? And I keep coming back. It's search. It's not like Google optimization. If you want us just to do that, then cool. You're leaving a lot of money on the table by doing that. And I can see those that get it immediately go, oh, okay. Their search, like, it's not search as just on a search engine. This is about where can my audience find me? And how can I, and I go, right, here we go. Where do they go? Shout out to Spark Toto, because that is a wonderful tool that has definitely been useful for us for the last, well, ever since it came out, basically, we subscribed to it. And I love how that conversation's changed, but the fundamentals are still there. Um, Talking about that though, um, about fundamentals coming in there and moving into a digital space. This will be I promise this will be the last question about the past going into here now. Just because I find this fascinating. A lot of what I have to do is scroll through LinkedIn and find as much as I can about people to go, oh, okay, that's cool. I want to see how that's transferred. You ran or worked as a florist
yeah, that's a
for
random
for a
one that you've
yeah,
found somewhere. Yeah, not I don't
yeah,
talk about it very often, so you've definitely found that somewhere that I wasn't
yeah,
aware of. But
yeah.
so there was a bit of I guess, a detour when I left university. So basically, when
Uh-huh.
I was around 13, 14, I started working on a flower stall in Birmingham. Had a friend who ran it. He got me to do like the Saturday job, Sunday job, that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
learned not how to be a professional florist, but I learned enough about how to make flower arrangements and selling and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And eventually, he also got me a job working in the wholesale markets in Birmingham. So at 17, 18 years old, I was working like nights at the weekend in the wholesale market. And then when I left university, I knew I didn't want to do law. But also at that point, I was dabbling in the SEO and doing okay with it, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with that in terms of a
Mhm,
job and a
mhm.
career. And so the opportunity came up to take over the flower business that I worked at when I was a lot younger. So I was like, okay, well,
Mhm,
let's try
mhm.
it. So I ended up that was my first proper business essentially,
Okay.
outside of the selling sweets at school. Um, and so I did that for about a year or so, really enjoyed it, and sold it to someone else. So technically, that was my first exit. But also, it's one of those jobs where I really enjoyed it. I loved working for myself, but it was a grind. Like, I was on my own, working 7 days a week, 14, 15-hour days, and it just wasn't really sustainable. And especially when I was that young, I didn't really
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
I was doing. I still don't a lot of the time, but even more back then. So that was a slight detour. And when it was around that time that I started to realize, oh, this SEO thing that I've kind of kept in the background, there's like a web dev agency not far from where I lived who was hiring for an SEO. And I was like, oh, salary, proper job, office, kind of,
Sounds good.
yeah, it felt very appealing compared with the 15-hour days I was working kind of out
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the rain of the flower store. So yeah, a bit of a detour, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I loved that period of time, but it's very, very random. And it's my wife kind of jokes that it's her favorite fact about me that when she found that out, she was like, "Oh wow, that's different. That's something."
Yeah, exactly, right?
Kind of going
Well,
from law to SEO to florist back to law again. Yeah.
so what did that teach you? part there, because this is the part where I want to see about like the personal growth. It's not so much like, hey, this is what it taught me about content optimization or discovering like an index issue. No, what I want to see is like, what did that teach you about running a it's more product based. You've got your customers right there in front of you. Essentially, like you're getting your brief in about, hey, this is what I'm looking for. What did that teach you there in that part of your life, moving into digital?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, ultimately, it taught me, I mean, given it was just me, it taught me everything about running a business from, you know, buying the product at the wholesale market. You know, I'd go there at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning and buy the stuff. I would then take it, obviously, make sure I was selling at a profit. But also, the interesting thing about that particular business, which a lot of people don't think about, it's a bit like a restaurant, like your product, it doesn't last forever. So with
Uh-huh.
flowers, you've got with most about a week without getting into this too much to sell them before you can't sell them anymore, or you have to sell them at a loss. So it taught me a lot in terms of the timeliness of buying stuff, selling stuff, kind of making sure that I was actually kind of planning things properly, and it just taught me a lot about selling as well. Like it was a flower store on the street, yeah, people walking past. Like I wasn't there trying to shove it in people's faces, but the
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
merchandising, the marketing, the signage, you know, displaying things so they look good. There were so many things. I think a lot of it I have carried through to different parts of my career, even if it's a bit subconscious. But I think that experience of just working for myself, the grind, honestly, as well, the resilience of it. Like, this is the UK, right? The weather's
Yes.
not always like it is right now. I was out there in the snow, in the wind, and the rain, and some days where I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. But I just cracked on. So I think it's probably the resilient side ultimately that stuck with me because it was hard, you know, and it was challenging. And I was 21 years old at the time, 22 years old. So you think you know it all at that point, and you're like, no, knew nothing really. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things I've carried through. But it's such a great experience to work for myself at that age and literally just me running the whole business, and it was fun, even though it was really hard.
I the fact that you did that, I don't like I could well to an extent running your own business. It was an actor self-employed, but well, I'm not doing that anymore, so you can see how successful that was for that time. But this actually segues really nicely. You have founded the New Leader. For those that are unfamiliar with it, can you give a little brief synopsis about what the New Leader is?
Yep, sure. So it's basically it was born out of a time at my agency where we were having a lot of managers kind of come through and start to manage SEO teams, paid media teams, content teams, and as they were kind of stepping into those roles, I noticed there was a big lack of like courses, kind of structured kind of learning around just how to be a manager. There was loads of stuff around how to be a good SEO or how to be good at PPC or analytics. There was all of that stuff. But being a good people manager, there's a lack of stuff. So I started to create kind of slide decks and curriculums and kind of did teaching and did sessions at Air in my agency to help people with that. And then eventually that kind of developed into a separate online course and website essentially where it just helps people make that move from an individual specialist like an SEO or PPC person into also becoming, you know, a people manager, because I think that they're very different roles, and I think you can be the best SEO in the world. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at managing SEOs, right? Because we've all got egos, we've all got ambitions, we've all got kind of emotions. That's very, very different to managing SEO. So yeah, it kind of
Hmm.
came out of that really. And at the moment, it's a website where I publish like a newsletter every week and publish content. And there's like a course in the background that people sign up to. And it was also a bit of a COVID project because it was one of those lockdown kind of projects where I was like, oh, I could actually spend a bit of time on this now. And now it's a pretty small part of what I do these days, but it's still kind of there in the background as a website that I, you know, care a lot about because I still think even now it's a big gap. You know, people don't get taught how to be a good manager
Exactly.
very, very well. You just get
Yep.
given the
Yep. Yep.
role and you have to figure out as you go along. And some people get it right and some people get it wrong, you know, but I try and fill that gap a little bit.
Well, I can absolutely relate to that. I think I was d- rightly or wrongly put in positions that I probably shouldn't have been so early
Yeah.
on in my career.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you'll say, "Oh yeah, you're quite personable. You'll be all right at this." Doesn't mean I've got a Scooby about someone's career
Yeah.
progression or what
Yeah.
they need in their gaps. And that first time that you're managing someone, they come in and they've had a bad like something's happened at home, and it's in fact your work. You go, Oh,
Yeah,
what do I do in this situation? I've got no idea. Have I said the right thing? Oh, maybe go take the day off. Got my manager. You told them what? And I'm going, well, they were totally upset. Like they were really in a bad way. You weren't going to get anything good out of them, but
yeah,
okay, I've done the wrong. Okay, and I thought, man, this is tough. I absolutely see that there. Um, and there's other people that I thought they would be maybe not so great managers, but actually they've totally got the right part. They can play that company line absolutely flawlessly. And I've gone, all right. And some people are going, that's what I want. I'm not looking for a best friend here. I'm looking for someone that can crack on with that. So the reason why I wanted to ask you about the new leader was asking you about you went from working for yourself and to come with that was the first time that you started managing a team by yourself when you became or possibly became an accidental manager through sometimes it's a punishment for success. You've done well, therefore you got to do that. And what was the again, this is about personal growth. So this is not meant to be pulling out like a terrible moment for you. Is a time where maybe it didn't go quite right for you in a managerial role, and what did it teach you? And I'm absolutely happy to share something first if you want to have a think because it's not about oh this terrible thing happened. It's like okay, what did I learn from that, and how have I taken that forward? One of the things that I have where I got it wrong. I got it wrong on the first part was not letting someone achieve the ambition that they wanted, like given that opportunity. And there was an event happening. For those that are listening from Big Mouth Media, you might remember that we did the first like big Scottish blogging event, and it was awesome. We got all these people to come over there to Edinburgh. We looked like the agency that were actually going to treat them with respect and all sorts. It was very good publicity for us at the time. And there was someone that I was managing saying that they really, really wanted to be involved in it. However, I had already assigned the roles for everybody. It was working exactly as it should. Everything was sort of steamrolling ahead, no issues.
yeah,
And the first thing I thought was, yeah, I'm not going to risk tampering with this because it's working. Everything is going ahead. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I said, actually, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. Now, on the surface, that looked like maybe the right call for the business. What I'd actually found was that it damaged their confidence in coming to me and asking for things going forward. And I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. That wasn't what I thought or intended to do at all. And they were then going around other team leaders asking, is there anything I can do for you? And they're wondering, well, why aren't you going to Jamie for that there? And that was on me. Chatted with them afterwards, but what it taught me was like, okay, instead of giving or at least my lesson from that was I gave an answer straight away. What I should have done, or at least looking back on hindsight there, admittedly this is years and years ago, was okay, cool. I'm glad that you're interested. You're trying to make my life easier and you want to get your experience. This is a good thing. Look at it again, see where they can add their value. Whether it's as big as they want, I can't guarantee that, but I can at least have them have a role in that. They get that experience when MD is standing up saying, "Hey, these are the people that were involved. Thumbs up." You get your name in there. You get the kudos. You get a little bit of that perception. And I robbed them of that, and I thought that was the looking back, that was the wrong thing to do. As much as I tried to rectify it, the damage was already done, and
yeah.
that
It's like
was
the
yeah,
damage to the longer term relationship.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I guess as well, there's those kind of decisions where you might have had to make the same decision again, but you might have communicated it differently or managed it differently,
mm,
understood the
yep,
potential impact. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a couple that come to mind for me that these aren't individual things. These are more kind of trends that I've kind of made mistakes on over time. And I think one of the first ones was when I was managing a team Distilled, an agency I worked for in London for about 5 years or so. I was managing a team of 3 people, and that I was so lucky that they were sometimes an absolute nightmare, but also absolutely amazing at their jobs. Really great SEOs, really technical, knew what they were doing. To the point where I mean, they were all more junior than me in terms of experience and years in the industry,
yeah, yeah,
but they were so smart and accelerating so quickly that it made me feel like I had to stay ahead of them all the time, and
Mm,
I still had to be the smartest person in the room when they were there. And
mm,
that that realization that no, you don't have to be. It's fine if they know more than you on X, Y, Z. That hit me quite hard, but also I was trying to stop that being a thing. I was always trying to stay ahead of them and still be that smartest person. Big mistake because like one, you're not going to do it. With people that
mhm,
smart and that advanced, especially a team of them, you're never going to stay ahead of them. So I shouldn't have tried. But also, what I started to realize was my value was in different areas. So, for example, they were really great at SEO and all that kind of stuff. But when a client kicks off and is shouting at them on the phone, I know how to handle that. I can do that all
yeah,
day
yeah,
long. They had never done that before, so that's where I could add value. So I started to realize that as a manager, your value often starts to become more the softer, kind of intangible stuff than the skills and the actual kind of industry level stuff. So that's probably one big mistake I made and realized, thankfully, before it was too late, and started to actually put my ego to one side and be like, no, I want my team to be smarter than me because that makes me look good.
mm, yeah,
Um, that's definitely one part. The other bit that briefly that comes to mind that I made later when I was running my own agency was, and I'm definitely not going to call out individuals here, but there were definitely times where I probably promoted people too early or gave them too much trust and autonomy. And I think I've favour giving people complete trust, autonomy, and just trust them to do the job and do it well, and give them that responsibility. Because I think most people step up and they embrace that and
mhm,
run
mhm,
with it. But sometimes, even though they want to do that, they can't. They're just not ready yet. And I think sometimes I made a mistake where I probably gave someone a bit too much trust, a bit too much autonomy without the support networks and the frameworks around them to make sure they
yeah,
can be
yeah,
successful. And that was, and that wasn't great for them because they struggled in their role. And
exactly.
it's hard for me to kind of backtrack and be like, okay, how do we fix this? So yeah, it's a double edged sword because on one hand, I still absolutely believe that if you've got good people, you should let them go and kind of let them do their thing and let them crack on. At the same time, though, you need the support around them to make sure that if something goes wrong, they can ride it out and you can be there for them. So, yeah, there are definitely a couple of mistakes that I've made, both as a manager at an agency, but also running my own agency. That they're probably two things that come to mind.
I'm sure, everyone on our team could give you dozens of things that Jamie has done and said like, "Oh no, we don't think that." Hopefully, maybe not dozens, but I could certainly give myself dozens. When you say that though about I run a very similar ship. Of here's the autonomy. Reason behind that is we've intentionally hired seniors only, and I'm talking people that have had minimum 10 years experience in SEO. The majority of our team have got, I want to say the most junior is 13 years.
Yeah.
And that's I'm going like, okay, there. And that's by design because we're remote and we want to get like make sure everyone like knows what they're doing, they know what to look for, and they're kind of good for that. What I found is there's got to be the desire for it, and there just to flip it back a little bit on the autonomy part was that I've definitely worked with others that want that autonomy, and then when given the autonomy can be, no, there's a lot more to this than I initially thought. And this is where I learned it myself. So I don't mind putting this on it because it's on me, of someone saying the enthusiasm, I want to do this. And I'm going like, yeah, that's great that you want to do this. Okay, cool. I've got my own little things. They'll need that and that. Okay, that's fine. Can absolutely work with that. That's not a blocker at all. And then when the reality kicks in, if something isn't going quite right and going, okay, well, what's you're coming to me with a problem, and I'm not one of these people that says, "Okay, come to me with only the solution, not the problem." Like, no, you're gonna need that. Like, come on, we're people. However, if you haven't thought of what you could do next, then maybe your this autonomy isn't quite right for you, and we need to get stricter parameters in there. And that's on me as well. And I found it's not a blanket thing at all. I found those that have come from more stricter corporate places before where there's a lot of red tape, they have all that there, and where I give them like, "Oh, it's gone." And they go, "Oh, that's attractive. I really like that, and I want to jump in straight head first." When actually that bit of red tape and those parameters there are, or guardrails, more to the point, are actually a safety net for them. And I want to
Yeah.
put that in there.
Yeah, and some people, and nothing wrong with needing that either all the time or want to get at certain times where, some people need that kind of structure or they need some kind of routine to follow or, they want autonomy within a structure. Whereas some people, they want the autonomy and don't need the structure. You can literally just let them go and they'll figure it out. Other
Mhm,
people just need that guidance and help along the way. And
mhm,
that's okay. It's just different kinds of people and different kind of roles need different things as well. And sometimes it's, and again, like you, I've done this as well. It's
mm,
probably sometimes a bit negligent of the manager to let someone go too much and not give them the guardrails
mhm.
and the guidance. So yeah, it can work both ways. Where it's not the individual's fault, it's the manager's fault for not doing it the right way.
Yeah, totally, and you've got to get a I like to think I leave ego at the door majority of the time. My foundation for that, as mentioned there about being an actor, is that you've got to, because you will be told really harsh things about your appearance, about your personality, all of that, that you can do nothing about, and you're just not the right person. My favorite bit of feedback ever for a role, and admittedly, it was, uh, yeah, I'd say it was the biggest role I'd gone for. It was like national theatre level, world tour type thing. That sounds cool. Not Scottish enough. I was like, ouch, ouch. Okay, cool. I saw the guy that got the role, and I'm like, oh yeah, you'd like if you. He's Scottish, like you can see him all there. But I was like, okay, maybe not that
Well,
there.
what can I do about that?
What can I do? I said that I was like, what can I do? And they're like, are you gonna? You can't do anything. We're not asking you to put on like some fake like West Coast accent here. You just you
Yeah.
just don't look quite Scottish. And it was yeah. So, and the guy that got it, you could see him. I was like, oh yeah, he looks as if he's
Yeah,
from the
at
global
least at
side.
least that was the case, and I didn't cast someone who like, "Oh, hold on, nah, that doesn't make sense."
Yeah, no, it totally made sense, and he was a lovely guy and all that. But that ego, like that thick skin, you kind of got to go, okay, that one wasn't on me, but it taught me like, hey, look, something's going to go wrong. You just got to own that, and then okay, cool, move on. But talking about um owning things and new roles that you mentioned earlier, is that you're working now as more an advisory role there. Um, led your own agency for 10 plus years, which well done. That is no easy feat at all. For any agency owners that are listening to this, they know the peaks and troughs sometimes on an hourly basis that you're going through. Now you're spending your I'm not working as advisor in your role right now. However, we work with advisors and I find genuinely their guidance on parts that I don't know and that sometimes I've got an idea of so impactful to me, and something that might just be a flippant comment from Stephen, might actually go like, "Wait a minute, this is I think you've spurned something over here, and you've now unlocked something in my brain that I wasn't aware of." And because they've walked the walk to an extent, I haven't, and I absolutely swallow pride in that. I'm going, I don't know this. Please help me, guide me, bring me on the path. I will listen and take your word as gospel. Um, how have you found that transition? And where there's a different fulfillment in that there. And again, that personal growth to, hey, I've helped someone. I guess there's a little bit of help. I'm still helping a business, but you're helping a business and a person in a very different way. And I potentially argue on a more personally fundamental way, because you said there at the very beginning about this sometimes be a bit of a therapy session for some business owners.
Yeah,
100%,
yeah.
100% in that you are taking on, hey, look, what's happening with our invoices? What's our pipeline? Oh, by the way, I'm about to have a mental breakdown. Can you help me of like how can you help me how I cannot do that? How did you cope with that there? What are your days like now in this new role compared to the previous ones?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, less stressful than running the agency. So I'll be really honest about that. Equally, if one of my clients is stressed, burned out, I absorb that sometimes as well, and it will kind of,
Mhm.
not make me feel as bad as they do, but I will kind of feel that energy, and it will affect me as well. So I do try and be careful with that. But at the same time, like I absolutely love it, and I think there's a few reasons why. Because I've spent a long time thinking about this over the last year and a half, 2 years since I've been doing it. Is that I really enjoy kind of helping the person behind the agency because I think sometimes, and you just alluded to this, that yes, I'm helping the business, but the business doesn't. just help itself. It's the person that has to drive the change that improves the business. So I really enjoy that aspect of. I've got 7 or 8 different clients at the moment, and each of the founders, individuals, like they're so different to each other in terms of how they operate, how they work, what kind of rattles them versus doesn't rattle them, and how they
Yeah.
use me as well. And that diversity I absolutely love. But that's coupled with the fact that I'll be really every agency's the same. Like genuinely, like I'm sorry to anyone listening who's going to disagree with me here, but every agency owner thinks they're unique in some way, and sometimes it's true. But the fundamental business model behind an agency and the challenges that agencies get, they're all the same. They just happen at different points and have different triggers, and most importantly, have different fixes because the person's different, the culture's different, that kind of stuff. So I
Mhm.
love that dynamic of every founder that I work with is completely different, yet the businesses they run all share the same problems. And they're all people problems. When you scale it all back, it's all about people. Either clients or team is people. Um, and I love that. I love and the things I get asked about are completely random. So one I spoke to yesterday, he's literally using me to keep him accountable, to make sure he gets his stuff done
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's sucked into the agency so much that every 2 weeks when we chat, he knows he has to have done those things that we spoke about previously.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm going to call him out on it, and that's the value for him. I'm not actually fixing things myself. I'm just making sure that he fixes things. Another client last year, it was the first time that they never sacked anyone before, and they wanted some help with just how to do it properly, how to do it in the right kind of way,
Yep,
how
yep.
to approach it. They were having a nervous breakdown, thinking about how am I going to do this because I'd never done it before. So I literally help them script it, help them kind of plan it, have the conversation. And I got a message from the following day saying, I did it. Like I did it. And I think I did it in the best way possible, which is all you can really do in those situations. So, whereas others I'm helping them plan for an exit, planning a roadmap for 3 years out. So it's very, very diverse. And I love that kind of diversity. And I love adapting to people. And to your point there, yeah, sometimes they just want to vent at someone. Who isn't their partner, isn't their team, because that's not always
Yeah,
appropriate.
yeah.
And I'm there for that as well.
That's I'm glad that you're bringing that up because when I mentioned other people, right, who a lot of my friends, like most of my friends don't run their own business, and when we say, "Oh yeah, we work with a few advisors," they kind of go like, "Why? Why do you need an advisor? And like, shouldn't you know what you should to know everything?" I'm like if I knew everything, like now, I wouldn't be working. I would already be on my island and be absolutely there. And their weight in gold to me is one that guidance, that path, and also when those situations there about I don't want to bring up the idea of like sacking some or anything like that, but when you come to something that is sensitive, it's nuanced, and you take different people can highlight like can come to those in different ways. I'm actually very similar to you, Paddy, or like with the energy levels there of it taking on energies around you and carrying that whether you like it or not. And so if it's something as stressful to a client there, and I just know like, oh, okay, I'm not going to sleep tonight till 4 a.m. because this is what's going to sit with me. I can't sleep until I've got I'm not the full answer, but a step forward in terms of what can we do. Wait, when I speak to them tomorrow, or I'm going to speak to them tomorrow, here are 3 options that they've got, which can be, and it's not like, oh, aren't you a lovely person? It's like, no, it's the way that you're wired. Others can go, okay, yep, cool, I heard that, and then put it to the side. Um, I've got lovely other business partners that are totally capable of doing that, and I'm so thankful for them because they can just hear something quite bad and go, okay, cool, right, this is what we're doing next. Um, and that's where I found the advisory part to be so helpful of going, I need to take occasionally the emotion out of this, and what can I do next? And I have to learn to be able, or the people that we've worked with have helped me to be able to speed up that process rather than because old Jamie would have sat weeks, and I'm saying I don't have weeks, I have 4 hours. Like how can I do that? And it's been wonderful of unpacking, and it's from people that have done that, and also to be given permission to go feel how you're feeling now, but this is what you've got to get to. And I genuinely didn't have that before. And that advisory process, it's changed me as a person. So well done. If anyone's wondering, that advisory, it's the weight of all of that there. It's not just, hey, this is what you do next, or how to win your next client. That's all right. So to go back to this new world that you're in, or say new, you've been in it for a few years now. What does a successful day look like to you now when you're, as opposed to, I mean, agency days, I can see is quite easy. Successful, happy clients, money coming in, growing, cool, pretty easy to measure. How do you measure it now?
This is actually something I have struggled with that transition from the agency to this consultant advisory kind of role, because I when I ran the agency, my way of working, my nature when there was a problem was to grab it, get hands on, and try and help fix it. Sometimes that is the right thing to do. Sometimes I shouldn't have done that. It was someone else's job, that kind of stuff. But I would always try and dive in and help as much as I could and get hands on. Um, Now I can't really do that because it's not my business, and so it's not appropriate. And I just physically shouldn't and can't do that. So I have struggled with that a little bit in terms of trying to coax someone towards a decision, trying to help someone solve a problem when I can't physically go and solve it. Or, for example, they've got to go and have a hard conversation with someone that to me feels relatively straightforward. Like, I can't just go and do it for them, right? I need to try and coach
Yeah.
them on how to approach it. So I have struggled with that a little bit. Because I've had to just adapt a little bit and do that. But in terms of what success looks like in that context, I think actually yesterday is a great example. I had about 5 or 6 calls yesterday with different clients, and I came off them feeling like I'd actually made a difference or gotten through to them, and that isn't always the case. Sometimes I'll say something and I can see them being like, "Oh, yeah, okay," and I make a note. And when I make a note, I'm like, "Okay, they're going to do it." When they just sit there looking at me, I'm like, "Okay, you're not going to do that, are you?" And again, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, they'll take some
Yeah.
advice and not take other advice. And that's fine. So most of the time now, a successful day is just when I feel like I've made some kind of a positive impact to help them realize something they hadn't realized before, help them make a decision or get closer to a decision they didn't know how to make. That's what success looks like now. And the one thing I try so hard not to do is to make decisions for them, because I just, it's not my business. I haven't got that skin in the game, so I shouldn't be doing that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So again, success is mostly just knowing that they're closer to make a decision, not me saying, "Oh, come on, just do this." Like, that's not. I would try
Yeah.
so hard not to do that. Kate, I think I've broken that rule maybe twice in 2 years, where there's been something potentially damaging. Where I was like, "No, just trust me. This is the route forward. Just go off and do it." But I try so hard not to do that. So success is just helping them towards that outcome, and whatever that outcome may be, then supporting them with the aftermath or whatever comes after it.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting that you say that, because I've definitely been on the receiving end of sometimes just other times I'm happy to, like, look, this is my decision. I'm going to do it. I'm happy to have the guidance and the options laid out to me. I'll make the final decision. I can definitely think of one explicit one where I'm going, just tell me what to do. Like,
Just tell me the answer. Yeah,
just tell me the answer, because
yeah,
you like, and I'm not doing this because I'm like, I don't want to make the decision. It's, I'm talking to someone who absolutely has gone through this, has made the decisions, and you know it, and we're just one sentence away from you saying, like, just, you should pick box A, just open box A. That's the one there. Box B and C are they're there, but you don't. I want someone to sometimes do that to me. Other times, I'm absolutely just, here are the options you've got available to you. This, what might happen if you do that there. What's all the information that you're giving me? And is all the information you give me accurate? But it's strange that you're saying you break that rule. I would love someone to break that rule with me. I want them to break it. I'm encouraging them to.
I totally get it, because I've been in the position of having, advisors as well when I ran my agency, and there were definitely times when I sat there going, "Oh, come on, just get to the point." When they're trying to ask you questions to help you get there, you're like, "Come on, just let's save us 10 minutes. Let's just tell me what you really
Let's
think."
just get.
But again, I understand now, and there are times when that is appropriate, where someone will say, "Look, here's what I would do." But again, I'll try and balance that against, well, here's what I did when I had this situation. here's what I got right, but also here's what I got wrong in the same kind of situation. So I try and balance it there. Because
Yep,
again, the
yep.
problems are the same, but the way in which they fix them, that's always different based on the agency and the person fixing it as well. So that's the line that I try and tread, but it's really hard sometimes because again, it'd be easy for me to sit there and go, yeah, just do this, this, and this, because I'd feel like I've done my job then. But I just don't think that's how an advisor or consultant should be working because they're not there every single day. They're not the ones having to actually physically do this.
There's a little bit of a cheat thing that, whether it's right or wrong, is that we've got multiple. And not to piss them against each other. That's not the idea. It's that they usually have got different skill sets, and I go, okay, that's brilliant. And occasionally, I've asked them both the same question to say, hey, look, this is where we're at. What do you think about that? And got two not like wildly different, but different approaches to it. Both got the same outcome, and I'm going like, oh, okay. What's so there was a way of executing that. How did you do that compared to? And I've told them, that's interesting. You said this. We've had this over here, and they go, oh, okay, cool. How d and not and again, it's not pitching that, but what that did for me was go, there's more than one way to skin a cat in this situation. How can we do that? What's the most similar ones to here? What don't we have? What do we have? What do we the expected outcome out of this? The personalities involved, all of that there, and all of the fun nuances taken into consideration.
I've
Love
had that
that.
as well with advisors in the past where sometimes genuinely hand on heart, I've asked the advisor the same question, like a few weeks apart, and they give me different answers. It's like, so
All
sometimes,
right. Okay.
you know, that's what happens because there's no right answer um, in terms of how to do something. But also, as well, thinking about this, there's also, as an advisor, there are times where to me that demonstrates, you know what, it actually doesn't matter that much, just make the call. Just do it because ultimately there's no right answer here. So just pick a lane, pick something and go for it. Because the fact that you're getting slightly different variants of an answer to something from very experienced people, it may not matter that much. That's why you kind of that you're getting different
Yeah,
answers.
yeah.
Do it. You know, you're overthinking this.
Yeah, I mean, I've also been told that. Like, that's it's what seems like I'm in the weeds of it, and I just need to like get pulled back out and go, "Hey, look, in the clear light of day, can you see that?" And go, "Okay, that's what's happening." And I love that. This is becoming a big advert for advisors. So yes, very
Which is good for me. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
okay.
it's also good. No, just it's the more I think about it, the more value I've got there. It's probably increased their contract. So the a couple of questions that I ask everyone on these sessions here, and we've gone back to at the beginning of the conversation. We were down at the early part of your career. You might have something you want to say. You might not. It totally depends on the person. Um, is there any advice, knowing everything that you know now and everything that you've been through, any guidance that you would give to baby Paddy on his on his first day of what was your first day of work when you were florist, law, SEO, whenever it was? Any advice you give to your younger self on the professional journey that they've gone through?
Um, I think that there's definitely, if I could go back and tell myself something, it would definitely be along the lines of, um, I guess, giving myself a bit of a break sometimes and just kind of like being a bit more accepting of, you know, sometimes shit's going to go wrong. Like, and it's fine. It's not the end of the world. And to try and like, because I think when you're younger, especially when things do go wrong, it feels like the worst thing ever because you haven't really experienced it before. And with you can kind of zoom out a little bit and have that kind of no, it's fine. Like, okay, this is not great right now, but the bigger picture here, it's just a speed bump. It's a problem, but you'll get through it. So I think kind of knowing that would have been more helpful because yeah, when things go wrong when you're a bit younger, it's like yeah, it feels like the worst thing ever. So I think if I could tell myself that for sure, but I think I would also just tell myself one of the things I've done pretty well over the years is just trying to really own my work and trying to take responsibility, take accountability for stuff. I would definitely tell myself to do that again, but also that there's a line to that, and there's only so much you can do. Sometimes there's only so much you can fix a problem before it's like, you know what, someone else has got to do this. Someone else has got to do their bit. Someone else has because I used to have the attitude that if something goes wrong on something I'm working on, it's my fault. You fix it.
Hmm.
You take
Hmm.
accountability. You grab it. You own it. You fix it.
Yeah.
That's a good attitude to have, but can work against you as well when there's other variables you just can't control. And that can be quite damaging if you don't realize that and you just blame yourself for stuff going wrong. So, yeah, if I go back and tell my younger self that, yeah, do this bit, that's all good, but don't give yourself a hard time for things that aren't in your control that you can't physically fix.
And that's hard relate to that, because there are parts that you genuinely you cannot control that. You can't stop someone else going whatever they're doing, and whether you feel responsible, whether it's a KPI that you're going towards, and sometimes it's just intrinsically like who you are. You have that pride of your work. You go, oh no, I care about this because it's a reflection of me, and it's yeah, that can be it can be so damaging. I don't think I've done that yet. I I still struggle with that, and wouldn't say I'm a control freak, but I do know that when something I'm like, okay, I've got this all the dominoes are all lined up. This is great, and someone's just throwing a little stone in there, and I'm going, hey, why are you throwing the stone? Like we can't be doing that. Um, that's really really good advice for your younger self, and one I can take on at the age I am now. Um, I like to end all these sessions here, Paddy, with gratitude. I'm practicing that for giving kudos or thank you to other people that have helped in the career or personally, because usually when I speak to someone that's had a bit of success, it takes a village to get there. It's rare that I say rare. It's never happened where I've met someone that's just gone, it was all me. Aren't I great? So is there anybody or a group of people that you'd like to say a thank you to?
I think the group that comes to mind the most are definitely the team that I worked with back at Distilled in like from 2010 to 2015, that kind of era where I was just surrounded by really, really good people. And I think that my wife and I kind of met around the same time that I started that job at Distilled. And she said to me once that the person I was at the start of that career versus the end of it were completely different. She's like, you became a man at that point. You became someone who actually knew who he was and how he worked and stuff like that. And I think a lot of that was because of the team I was surrounded with in my career, and her as well, to give her some credit there on that journey. But yeah, I think around that period, that team that I worked at Distill, and also my old boss, Will Critchlow, who I still speak to a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, he had a big impact on my career and still does. Like, I still WhatsApp him and text him and sometimes say sorry for the things that I gave him a hard time about when he was my boss. I struggle with, and also just helping me generally. So yeah, they're the people that definitely stick out. I think they probably had the biggest impact on my career and how I did things later, and how I ran my own company, how I tried to run my own company, and what I do now. Essentially, a lot of the frameworks, terminologies, I still quote people who I worked with back then,
Mm,
with ways that I try and do things now. So yeah, they probably are the ones that come to mind first.
lovely. Well, Paddy, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. What's next for Paddy, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so what's next? I'm really heavily focused on my consultancy for agency advisory, which is called Founder Focus. So that's at founderfocus.net. And I've got a newsletter there, which I publish each week, designed for founders and senior teams at agencies and just addresses real challenges I work through. So people can find me there. And yeah, just trying to grow that, trying to do a good job for the clients I work with, trying to enjoy the journey with them as well. Yeah, it's my big focus at the moment.
Amazing. And if people were to try and find you on LinkedIn or anything like that, is it just look up Paddy Moogan? You'll
Yeah,
be the Paddy.
thankfully, with my surname, there's not too many of us, so yeah, you should be able to find me there somewhere.
Amazing. Cool. Well, Paddy, thank you so much for your time again. And thank you, the viewer, listener, for giving me your eyes and ears. I truly, truly appreciate it. And we will see you soon. Paddy, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Cheers.